What makes a motivating teacher? A motivating teacher has to be a dancer. And by that I mean they have to get into the rhythm of the child. They have to differentiate the child. They have to differentiate the group. Then you say, well, what's the main difference between children? Or what's the difference between children that teachers can impact on? There's hundreds of ways that children are different, but what are the key ways that are driving their motivation, and what's the key ways that teachers can impact on that? Now, having thought about that for 7 or 8 years, the basic answer to that is their self-emotions, or how they feel about themselves as learners, what's on their mind. And that's what teachers have to tune into. Now, the reason it's a challenge is that all these general principles that I've developed about motivation and about behaviour management, for example, praise, reprimands, punishments and so on, the principles, the strategies don't work the same with everyone. And that's the biggest challenge teachers have got. For the biggest challenge, I think, teachers have to motivate all children, emphasising the word all, is that they're all different. And the other essence of that is all teachers are different. So the teacher really has to become a social engineer, or someone who's really spending a lot of his time not just thinking about the curriculum or teaching and learning, but thinking about the classroom climate, because that's why the classroom climate is so important. And not only does it set the scene for the transmission of the curriculum and the transmission of the teacher's values, but it's creating a climate for the peer group to operate in. And the peer group is a fundamental component in this whole motivation game. What's interesting as well is the motivating teacher who has the capacity to do that feels good about themselves as teachers, because it's the same thing, and it's a circle. There's a circle of motivation without being too complicated. The motivating teacher has to tune into these the self-emotions, I call them. And that's a kind of comprehensive bundle of things like self-esteem, self-belief, and attitudes to achievement, and all sorts of motivation mindsets, which is a kind of complex bundle, but I think that the best way to think about it is just self-emotions. And I like to think of self-energising emotions, which is what motivation is. That's the wow factor, that's the kind I'm really interested in. And the opposite of that is self-draining emotions, where it's just a kind of spiral of helplessness, hopelessness, apathy, alienation, all sorts of motivations that's driving kids to just disengage.